Hey guys, Jenna here. Welcome back to my channel where I feature alternative and creative homes. In today's video tour, we meet an inspiring young woman who built her own beautiful tiny home to achieve financial stability through creative home design.
Welcome to the inside of my tiny house.
Some highlights of her tiny home include a modern and minimalistic style, an open floor plan, a sunlit shower, and her burnt wood siding. Mariah showcases some unique design ideas throughout this video, all of which make her home seem a lot larger than it actually is. If you're interested in more tiny house design tips, I recently produced a video of my own tiny house for extra space storage, where I feature some of my favorite design tricks to help a space seem larger and more functional. I'll put a link to it below in the description, and I hope you'll check it out after watching this video tour.
Hi, my name is Mariah Hoffman, and this is my tiny house, Lola. Before I built my tiny house, I was living in the Bay Area, and I was a few years out of school, out of undergrad, and I was just feeling pretty lost. I was trying to figure out my next direction in life. I felt like I was lost creatively. Financially, I was really having a hard time, and also just kind of emotionally, I was just trying to still sort through some things in my life that I just wanted to heal from and process through. And I went out for a run, and I ended up stumbling across a tiny house in person. And this woman walked out. She was very gracious, and she let me, come inside and see the space. And that's when everything clicked for me. Okay, this is it. This is what I have to do. Ever since I was a little girl, I was always fascinated with architecture and design. Wasn't sure if I wanted to be an architect, but I just knew I wanted to build my dream home one day. Through life, I experienced some challenge when it came to my family and financial instability, emotional instability when it came to kind of my adolescent years. And in that time, I started to realize, building a safe home for me was in part a desire to learn architecture hands-on and to learn construction and the design process. And the other part was really just a real need for a safe and stable home and a stable livelihood for myself. That required a lot of personal reflection in terms of understanding what safety looks like to me. What does it feel like? So that process was really important for not only just designing the house, but also understanding what my objectives are and my goals for the whole journey. It's been really powerful to see that process help other people in their lives. And so I started my company, Micromodula, which is a creative studio, and now I get to help others explore their own realities of home. And so through my own practice of this home, I've been able to kind of identify my creative voice and my own business as well. I've been living in my tiny house for about 3 years, and the first year of that was actually still as I was finishing the build. My build process was definitely a journey. It took over 5 years to finish my house from start to finish. I really spent the first 8 months just planning my build. 98% of the work in my house was self-performed, so it was a huge learning curve. I had close to 0 building experience. I barely used a drill, and I really wanted to just dive in and start to learn kind of like the basics. I began using a makerspace actually here in San Diego, which was incredibly helpful at the time. And a makerspace is essentially a co-work space, and in addition to the actual tools and classes, it was an amazing network and a community of other builders. And just like any house, people I think often don't realize a tiny house, even though it's small, you still have to go through all the standard construction phases, just at a smaller scale. And I was able to save quite a bit in terms of labor, but that doesn't include sweat equity of my time. But the total cost to build was about $12,384 from start to finish, including the trailer as well. This is my tiny house, Lola. So I built my tiny house on a 20-foot trailer, a used trailer that I modified by welding a new frame. My trailer has double axles and that can support about roughly 11,500 weight capacity. And I actually clad it with a traditional Japanese burning technique called Chusugiban. And by actually burning the wood, you make it naturally bug, fire, and water resistant. So it's a really awesome technique for cladding that kind of naturally has a resilience to it. And so I really was curious and I wanted to try that technique on my house. Here we are on the deck of my tiny house, and it's just a great added feature because you can extend the outdoor space directly in front of my house. I love sitting out here, having my coffee, having a little fire, and the best part was I made this all from scrap material from my house build. So because I actually welded my frame using steel, I was able to add these extra large, beautiful windows that are custom aluminum windows with tempered glass to really maximize the view and open up the space inside. We're here on the outside around the back of my tiny house where I've got my on-demand hot water heater and also added bonus, a little outdoor shower. So great for San Diego. If I come home, I just need to rinse off my feet, I've got this as well as my indoor shower. We are here in the back of my tiny house, and this is what I call my garage. It actually sits underneath my bed frame. And I use this to store all my tools and materials and paints and anything else that I need for my build. So I'm super excited to show you one of my favorite features of my tiny house, which is my custom welded door. So I actually made it using weld-on hinges and also some 2x4s for the handles and just paneled it from there. Welcome to the inside of my tiny house. As you can see, I kept with the minimalist, clean aesthetic in my house. I really wanted to make sure that even though it's a small space, that it felt as large as possible. And so I really didn't do a ton of built-ins. I really just tried to keep things as modular and fold down as much as possible to really keep the small space open. So above my windows, I actually use what's called polycarbonate twin wall. And the reason I use this is because I wanted to have consistent natural filtered light in my small space. And I realized this really allows a small space to feel bigger. So even with my curtains closed, I get this nice filtered light, and I also get the sunset coming in. I really wanted a long kind of multifunctional desk in my tiny house. So I actually made this using just birch ply and some hinges that fold flat, flush with the wheel well. It actually opens up the space for just different options. So this is my multifunctional desk and kitchen table. So I use this for working on my computer, having dinner, and things like that. And this table also folds flush over my wheel well, which opens up the space even more. So I decided to go with custom aluminum windows with a double slider on either side and in both sides of the house as well for cross ventilation. Another way that I was actually able to just save on some costs was making my curtains using just canvas drop cloth. So this is my bedroom area of my tiny house. As you can see, I've got a bit of storage. I actually chose to go with a half lofted bed to maximize storage underneath, and directly below this is my garage outside. So these great little cubbies serve two purposes. One is storage for my clothes, and the other is extra seating. So on my bookcase, I get to display different architectural books that inspire me and also artwork from people that I love. So I've got two pieces of art, one from my sister and one from my partner, who are both artists, and it's just a nice thing to have that, a little special artwork that really personalizes my space. This is the bed of my tiny house, and it's just a twin size bed that fits right in this back wall. So I decided to go with a twin bed because it was the most compact for this space. I think definitely if you have the option to fit a queen, if you do a lofted bed, that makes sense. But since I did a half loft, I really had the real estate just for a twin size. So that's what I have to work with here, and yeah, it works out. I really wanted to keep my interior paneling very minimalist, but also, reference and honor the structural frame of the trailer. So you can see I left pieces of the frame exposed, and then I paneled it with this birch paneling, which I think fits really nice, and I carried that through the walls as well as the ceiling. For my electrical, I decided to go with exposed conduit for a couple reasons. The first is because it allows me to adapt it over time. If I ever need to add another receptacle, I could do that. And then also it just made more sense with a steel frame, so I wouldn't have to run wiring through the metal frame. So here we are in my kitchen of my tiny house, and this unit I actually got from IKEA, and I love it as well. It's super compact and it fits perfectly in my space, and I just use a single propane burner, got my sink, got my utensils, and I'm good to go. I wanted to make my kitchen shelving as modular as possible, so I used actually this retail grid wall, and I made these custom birch shelves as well. And I keep my dishes and pots and everything up here. And then for my backsplash, I carried the Sugibon element inside as well and added that. In a small space, every square inch matters. So in this tiny little niche between my kitchen and the shelf, I was able to fit my pantry. I'm really excited to show you one of my favorite spaces in my tiny house, which is my shower. So let's take a look. So I really wanted my shower to feel modern and clean. So I've got the skylight above, which allows for natural light. I've got these niches that I actually just built within the frame. And then I've got this nice, beautiful modern shower head. The roof of my shower is actually a custom skylight that I made using the polycarbonate. The great thing about this skylight is that it allows for this awesome natural light in my shower, and I can open it up for ventilation. And in terms of my toilet, I actually have a nice communal bathroom on the property that I'm able to use, and then eventually I'll be adding a compost toilet. So my tiny house is parked kind of in the outskirts of San Diego, and it was actually just through connections at the makerspace that I was able to connect with a friend of a friend who had a property, and they were willing to let me build and park. I knew that being a young woman of color entering architecture, construction, fabrication, and building, I didn't see enough examples of it growing up, and it was something that when I was moving through this process, I really realized that I wanted to see more examples of it, and I wanted to be that example for other people as well. And so now that I was able to kind of do this with my life and with my creative process, I want to continue to inspire others and other young women, especially of color, to find their voice in this process, and to be brave, and to trust your own vision, and to trust your own voice and story that you have, because everybody has a unique story to tell, especially now.
Thanks for watching this video, guys. Check back next Friday for an all-new alternative or tiny home tour.